Thank you for inviting me. Good evening to you and to the listeners and viewers of Qnews. The visit of Mr. Amos Hochstein is extremely important because we are 10 days away, almost 10 days away from the end of the 60-day ceasefire agreement. And it was supposed to show within those 60 days that the Lebanese army forces has taken over all the occupied territories by the Israeli forces. As we see on the ground, we saw a very shy retrieve of the IDF back to Israel, and we still see also raids and strikes and even bombing of some of the areas, let alone the burning of some of the houses that really don't have anything to do with the war. So from one hand, we see a huge atrocity and continuation of the destruction of the villages in the southern Lebanon. And at the same time, we see from the other hand, an extreme determination of the Lebanese army forces to really take over the occupation and to really spread their military forces and their presence on all the territories of Lebanon. When Amos Hochstein came to Lebanon, he said that the Israeli forces is not ready to pull out, and that was a major disappointment for many residents who were waiting for the moment to go back to their villages and start rebuilding their homes. So this has created some tension also because people are now left in limbo. We looked back at the ceasefire agreement, and unfortunately, it does not
Dr.
give.
Nagat, the citizens are disappointed.
Absolutely, because they were waiting anxiously to go back to their villages and to check on their homes. And even if their homes were destroyed, they wanted to go back, look after their agricultural field and look after their homes and start rebuilding what was destroyed. But what is extremely important is that the ceasefire agreement, when you look at it very carefully, it's true. It says that the overall period of the ceasefire agreement is 60 days, but the phasing out of the presence of IDF is mentioned without any time limit or schedule for their retrieval. And that is a gap in the way the ceasefire agreement was drafted.
As the Lebanese army begins deploying to the southern areas, to what extent has the deployment of the Lebanese army south of the Litani River been implemented since the ceasefire came into effect?
Excuse me, the Lebanese army forces was able to really spread and be present in all the places that was allowed for her to go in. We are so proud of the Lebanese army forces today in particular that they have taken the head of the Nakura place, and they have really also took over the tower where they have really a control over the whole area. This is an extremely strategic point that was today handed over to the Lebanese army forces. I want to say that they are doing their utmost best to really be present and to spread their sovereignty and their presence over the territories that they are handed to them. And with that, we can say that the Lebanese army forces has done a magnificent job within a short amount of time in really showing their ability and their possibility to be present and to spread peace and security and stability over the territories that they are placed in.
Doctor, what strategies can be implemented from both parties to address the underlying issues that threaten the ceasefire in Lebanon? And do you think, okay, go ahead with this answer and then I'll continue.
There is one point that is extremely important, and up until now we have not seen a seriousness and full compliance with, is that the Hezbollah fighters and the Hezbollah leaders have to really comply with the implementation of the 1701 and all its predecessors, as well as the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. And this is basically can be summarized by Hezbollah turning its weapon back to the Lebanese army forces. And we don't have any armed forces except the armed forces of the Lebanese government. This is one and only one crucial component that will dictate, or that will really dictate the success of the ceasefire agreement, and also the implementation of the 1701 agreement, UN resolution, which will also affect the withdrawal of the Israeli forces back to the blue line, or to the delineation of our border that has been well defined by the agreement in 1949. We care, and we really for us, it is of utmost importance that we really regain all the territories that have been occupied by Israel. And to do so, we really need to push the diplomatic efforts and the presence of the Lebanese army forces. At the same time, show the international community that we are dead serious about the implementation of these resolutions, by pushing and expecting from Hezbollah to really turn all its weaponry and all its weapons to the government and to the Lebanese army forces.
Dr. Najat, Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri recently called for a general session to elect a new president. How is this step effective for the stability of Lebanon, and the impact of this step on the ceasefire and the ongoings in Lebanon, in light, of course, of the Israeli war on Lebanon?
Well, it was an understanding when the ceasefire agreement was signed that there will be a calling to elect a president as soon as possible. Nabih Berri respected, quote unquote, this understanding, and called for the election of the president before the end of the ceasefire delay or timeline. And however, the timing that was called for was really at the end, or towards the end of this timeline, and this puts a pressure on the members of the parliament to really come up with an agreement, or go to the session and elect a president. And I want to say, even if the international community has put pressure on Nabih Berri to really call for presidential election, Nabih Berri has not called for consecutive sessions as per the constitution since 2 years and 3 months ago, which was the time when we had a vacancy in the presidency. So this calling for electing a president came super late, years late, and at the same time, we don't see a seriousness in the way the members of the parliament.
Do you see this call late, Dr. Najat, in the favor of Lebanon or against the favor of Lebanon?
It is definitely in the favor of Lebanon, because we really need to reinstate the institutions. We need to have a president who will be able to do all the negotiations and the discussion on behalf of Lebanon. The Speaker of the House is not the president and cannot carry out all of these negotiations. If we have an executive body starting with the president and then with the prime minister and a cabinet. This body will be the one that is basically mandated to do all these negotiations on behalf of the Lebanese people and not on behalf of one sect or one side, one group of the Lebanese people.
Okay, given the ongoing Israeli violations, what do you think Lebanon needs to do to ensure that Israel does not consolidate its occupation in the south beyond the ceasefire period, which ends on the 25th of January?
This is the scariest thought that we all have, is that we really need to show the international community that we are serious in implementing the resolutions, and we care about every single inch of our territory, of our land, and we want it back, and we want to finish the occupation of the Israelis on our territory. So I say this is extremely important, but it is important for the international community to continue monitoring the implementation of the ceasefire so that they are able to put some pressure on the Israeli government to withdraw. But at the same time, the Lebanese have a major role to play, and that is to show the same seriousness as other countries, by asking the other countries to monitor. We really need to do our part of the job. That is to really build a government, starting by electing a president and forming a cabinet as soon as possible, and at the same time back up the Lebanese army forces to continue their presence in the south, to continue taking over after the withdrawal of the Israeli forces. We have a major part to do, and we hope that we can do it very well so that the international community can stand by our side in order for us to regain all our country back.